Hey there, Broby223 here, and thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. I've spent this fall conducting and filming a wide variety of 12-gauge ammunition tests, and this week I've gotten around to editing and posting what will conclude the BB Baseline series for now, episode 1.4. If you check out my previous episodes to date, you'll discover a pretty good baseline for a variety of different BB loads, and in this episode, we'll finish that BB baseline off with a look at Remington's Express Long Range Unplated Lead BB. I've got a couple more loads I'd hoped to include in the series, primarily some tungsten iron and heavy shot. However, they're pretty much unavailable up here in Alberta, and I had to special order everything I wanted to test. ETA is something absurd like 6 months, so I'll make sure to get these included next spring or summer. Okay, so from a range of 5 yards, here goes one round out of my Marine Magnum into carefully calibrated 10% ballistics gel. Unlike the other 3-inch loads we've tested thus far, this is a 2 3/4 inch shell which carries about 30% less payload by comparison to the 3-inch shells you've seen tested in earlier episodes. It's got a conventional styled wad, so tight patterns at any distance are likely to require some sort of choke. Permanent penetration was good, on average about 11 inches, and what I now consider about the benchmark for close range lead BB from a 12 gauge. Keep in mind though that this was from the really close range of 5 yards, so in future episodes I'll make sure to do some penetration tests at further range to give you a bit better idea of how dramatically penetration can fall off when using birdshot at longer distances. The 3.5 inch impact pattern surprised me a little. Given the conventional wad design of this load, I was expecting it to be somewhat wider, but the true tell of the tape will be the pattern test we'll get to right away. Let's review the choke setup of our guns. Cylinder bore, cut down cylinder, improved cylinder, and modified choke. Here we go. My pattern boards measure 36 inches tall by 30 inches wide, and on each one I've stapled a 12-inch diameter cardboard disc we can use as a general reference. I shot this one with the cylinder board Marine Magnum, and you can see that the pattern is quite open with only 11 hits inside the reference disc. There's a couple of pellets that are unaccounted for too, so yeah, it's pretty wide. Now moving over to the 1187 Sportsman with the bucked off barrel, things aren't much different. There's slightly more in the reference disc, however it's only about 20% of the total pellet count, so I'd say this pattern's pretty wide too. With the 870 Police and its improved cylinder barrel, I counted no more hits inside the reference disc, but there's for sure more pellets accounted for on the pattern board, so the load's definitely responsive to tightening bore restriction. And this is illustrated with some certainty as we move over to the last board shot with a modified choke, where the pattern is considerably tighter and about half of the pellets are now hitting inside the reference disc. All in all, with Remington's Express Long Range BB, you can pick your pattern vis-a-vis experimentation with different chokes, an exercise I'd recommend to just about anyone using birdshot in their shotgun. So now let's finish up with a quick look at the contents of an unfired round and compare them to shot recovered from our gelatin test and a wad recovered from general shooting. Here's a close-up of the unfired lead shot, and you can see that it is far from perfectly round if you go back and compare it to those beautifully nickel-plated BBs in the Hornady load we tested in episode 1.2. Now pulling the camera back a bit, here's the entire shot package. There's just over 60 pellets in there, and they've been paired with a Remington wad that has a considerable amount of cushioning built into it. Now panning over to the shot I recovered from the gelatin test and a wad recovered from general shooting, it seems to me that wad does a pretty fair job of protecting those pellets from deformation. You might think I'm nuts to say that, but look carefully and you'll notice that there are pretty much 2 degrees of deformation. I suspect that the more serious deformation occurred as a result of pellet collisions inside the gelatin. And what's that copper-plated BB doing there? It's the one used to calibrate the gelatin. In closing, I think Remington's Express Long Range Lead BB is a pretty good load given its economical price point and generally good performance in both gelatin and on the pattern board. If you're looking for super tight patterns out of a cylinder board gun, I think you'll definitely be disappointed. However, this thing responds well to tightening choke, so if you have a shotgun that's threaded for removable chokes, you can pretty much tailor it to your intended application. About the only drawback I can see is the reduced shot capacity of its 2 3/4 inch shell. But if you're shooting an older Wingmaster with a 2 3/4 inch chamber, it sure is nice to still have some BB options. So that wraps up episode 1.4. If there's something you'd like to see tested in the future though, please make sure to let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and take care till next time. Bye for now.